When two mummified bodies were dug up, locals claimed they held the key to a mysterious legend. 300 years after a romantic drama unfolded in Teruel, Spain, workers begin to restore the city's San Pedro church. But as it happens, the job doesn't just bring the building back to its former glory. You see, as diggers shovel the grounds at the ancient structure, they hit what turns out to be two sets of human remains. And thanks to that discovery, a mysterious piece of Spanish folklore, the truth of which has long been debated, may have just become very real indeed. Yes, the unearthing of the mummified bodies could answer questions that have lingered in the Spanish consciousness for years. Even today, tourists continue to flock to the city that painted the backdrop for a tale that's not just romantic but also thrilling and tragic. The story in question started, however, early in the 1200s, when the Marcilla and Segura families were both at the top of Teruel's social hierarchy. And in theory, a marriage that brought together these clans wasn't necessarily a bad thing, as the power and influence of both the Marcillas and the Seguras would likely increase as a result. When a man and a woman from each of the families fell in love, though, there was a problem. One of them was no longer very rich. Yet the couple's forbidden love raged on in spite of its detractors. Well, it's even said that the pair were ultimately reunited in the public's eye. Sadly, though, the reconciliation didn't have a fairy tale ending. And questions remained about the liaison, too, when the two sets of remains were unveiled at the site of the San Pedro church. Centuries before the bodies were discovered, however, the Marcilla and Segura families were said to have reigned supreme in Teruel. The city lies in the Spanish region of Aragon, which is home to the Zaragoza. And while Juan Martinez, also known as Diego, came from the Marcilla clan, his childhood friend Isabel was part of the Seguras. The story claims that Diego and Isabel had both been playmates when they were younger. In fact, and to begin with, the schoolyard crush they shared didn't bother anyone. They both came from the same social circle after all. When the pair had reached the age where they could put marriage on the table, though, Diego's situation had changed. Specifically, Diego told Isabel's dad, who at the time was the wealthiest man in Teruel, that he would earn his way to the wedding. That's right, the young man asked for 5 years to build his own wealth and make him worthy of marrying Isabel. Surprisingly, her father accepted the offer, and Diego left town to start accruing the money that he'd promised. Apparently, a gentleman's agreement was final. In the meantime, though, Isabel's father hoped that she might find another man to marry in Diego's absence. Yet the young woman had no intention of vowing herself and her life to another, and this led her to tell her father that she wanted to stay a virgin until the age of 20. Waiting for Diego for so long would give her the time to become skilled in housewifery to boot. Now, although Isabel's father didn't seem to want her marrying Diego, he also loved his daughter deeply. He therefore obliged her request, and the two of them waited 5 years for the Marcilla boy to return. But during that time, no one ever heard from Diego. Just as the ceremony ended, though, there was a disturbance at the gates of Teruel. Then guards informed the Segura family that a familiar face had returned. Yes, that interloper was indeed Diego, who was carrying the riches he'd promised in order to marry Isabel. It seemed as well that he still wanted to wed his former sweetheart. But why hadn't Diego arrived sooner? For one, Diego didn't want to give up on Isabel. Instead, the night after her wedding to Segura, he snuck into Isabel's bedroom. And after the newlywed had awoken, he begged her for a kiss, supposedly saying, "Kiss me, for I am dying." But as Isabel had just gotten married, she had no intention of breaking her vow to Azagra. In fact, she responded to Diego's request by saying, "God would not wish me to deceive my husband." Instead, she implored him to move on with his life. According to folklore, Isabel told Diego, "For the love of Christ, I beg that you find another and forget about me. If our love could not please God, then neither should it please me." And while the heartbroken Spaniard asked one more time for a kiss and yet again reminded Isabel that he was dying, she still refused to touch his lips with hers. The story has it that Isabel's refusal then left Diego with nothing to live for, as he couldn't handle the thought of separating from her forever. So the young man took one final breath and collapsed at her feet. He died right in front of his beloved, it said, having never received that kiss that he wanted so badly. As soon as Isabel realized that Diego had dropped dead, however, a shiver went through her body. Then she went up to her new husband, Azagra, and told him that his snoring had caused her to stir. Isabel added that she wanted Azagra to tell her a story. And after Azagra had done as his new bride had wished, Isabel decided to recount a tale of her own. Yes, Isabel told Azagra about how Diego had entered their bedroom and died. Then she pointed out Diego's lifeless body next to their bed, proving it seems that her story was real. And when Azagra wondered why his wife hadn't just kissed the other man to stop him from perishing, she replied, "Do not deceive my husband." For that decision, Azagra went on to deem Isabel a woman worthy of praise. But he didn't have a long time to shower his wife with such affection. You see, after that, the pair decided quickly to bury Diego at their local church in a secret ceremony. Otherwise, Azagra might be blamed for the death of his wife's former lover. And Isabel decided to make a statement of her own at the secret burial service for Diego. There, she turned up in her wedding dress and once again walked down the aisle. On this occasion, however, she approached the body of her lifelong love, whose body laid at the front of the church. For the event, Terrell locals typically don medieval outfits to set the scene for retelling Isabel and Diego's story. Additionally, they sell some of the region's most famous products, including ironworks and pottery. The festival itself, meanwhile, honors Spanish couples who have reached their 25th or 50th wedding anniversaries. So while the tale of the lovers of Terrell may just be a piece of fiction, its continued popularity proves yet again that love stories can endure through the ages. And this is especially true of those that come with an ending as tragic as Isabel and Diego's. Check out these other videos from Let Me Know. If you haven't made the move to subscribe to our channel, all you need to do is click on that red subscribe button. Thank you for watching.